Hi, and welcome to part 3 of my tutorial on leatherworking for Glowforge owners. Today, what we're going to look at are the tools and techniques that you're going to need in addition to your Glowforge to actually get started working. So I've got a pile of essentials, and I've got a pile of nice to have. So first thing on your essentials, you're going to need knives. So this is just a standard box cutter. This is a Milwaukee. I got it at Home Depot. But it's your basic box cutter, changeable blades, and an X-Acto knife. You're going to want to start with a sharp blade pretty much anytime you do it. Blades are super cheap on these things. And why do you need this? Because when you do your laser projects, even if you do like I said, and you double and triple check, you're going to have things that don't get cut all the way through. So you're going to need some way to get them out of this piece of leather. The other reason you're going to need it is because when you buy your hide, like I told you to in the first tutorial, you're going to get like a 25 square foot side, and you're going to need some way to cut that down to something that will fit in your Glowforge. So you want a surface that you can cut on. This is a just general self-healing cutting mat that we have glued to a desk, 36 by 24 inches. Giant area to work with. Whatever size you have, it's fine. You probably have one of these lying around already if you do craft stuff. If not, they're reasonably inexpensive. The other option that's nice to have for other things in leatherworking is this, which is a NSF cutting board, like a kitchen cutting board. You're going to want this when we get to the next thing I'm going to talk about, and that is a way to punch holes. Now, this set of hole punches came in everything down from 0.5 millimeter up to 5 millimeters and everything in between. It came from Amazon. It was relatively cheap. I think it was about $14-15 for all the punches, and they have held up way better than I expected. So to use these, what you're going to do is punch out the holes that didn't get cut when you didn't double and triple check your settings. And for this, I use a Leatherworker's maul. You can use any type of hammer. Just know that if you use a metal hammer on these tools, you're going to start to mushroom out the heads. Not really great. These things are cool. They're not super cheap, but the way they're weighted, you're not putting force into swinging them. You're basically just letting gravity do the work. You guide it down and let gravity do all the work. So these are your general use for punching out holes. Now, we'll jump over to the nice to have pile and go with this. This is a adjustable hole punch. If you're doing craft shows, if you're doing things in the field where you want to be able to punch holes super quick and easy, it's literally a matter of just done. There's a hole. So, I think this was maybe about $30. I'll have information when I'm sitting in front of a computer, but yeah, nice to have. So that's out of the way. We can cut the leather. We can punch holes in the leather that did not get cut and punched by our Glowforge. So what do we need next? Next, this is a scratch awl. They're cheap. They come in all these leatherworking starter kits, and I don't really recommend you buy one of those. Most of the tools that are in there are junk, and you're going to end up replacing with something better. This is one of the few surviving tools, along with this guy over here we'll get to, from my beginner leather worker kit. So scratch awl, you don't really want to ride on your leather. That you can just make an easy little mark in there so that you can see where you're cutting. When you're measuring things out, make a mark, and you're good. All right. So next, let's talk about how we're actually going to fasten some of the things that we're making. This is a key fob I've cut. Super simple to make. What we're going to do, and I did not bring a keychain over here, but that's fine. They're made so that you can put them on after the fact. We're going to take, these are speed rivets. So you can get rivets in different types, and all of them are pretty much terrible to work with. These are flat on the back and then domed on the part that you'll see. You can get others that are double domed. So we're going to get into another nice to have, and that is a granite slab. when you're doing things like this, when you're hammering on things and you want them to stay secure, granite slab is super duper nice to have. Again, not really cheap. If you know somebody that makes counters, I'm sure they've got scrap that they're throwing away. This is a 12 by 12, and really has been worth it in the long term. But so when we do rivets, you'll need a setter, and that is this guy right here. And you can use an anvil if you're doing a double cap, which means you've got the rounded part on both sides. So you're going to put that in there so that you're not flattening out the dome as you hammer them in. And we'll put that right through there. Clip this guy down on it. We'll take our setter. There is a concave end and a flat end. You're going to put the concave end on the rivet and just give it a couple taps. Tap, 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 and it's set. So that's all there is to installing a rivet. Next, I think we've covered pretty much everything in the must-have except needles. So these are John James needles. These are what I would recommend. This is a case of buy once, cry once. They're not that expensive compared to everything else, but they're a little more expensive. I think 25 needles was about $15 on Amazon. You can get things cheaper, but you shouldn't. I've used cheap needles off of Amazon, and they tended to bend and break. I've used some of the slightly nicer needles from Tandy, and I've had a couple of those snap on me. And having a needle snap in your hand, not really fun. So leatherworking needles are blunted. You don't want the super sharp ones because you don't want to puncture your leather, you don't want to puncture your thread, and you don't want to scratch your leather accidentally. So these are not all that sharp. You can feel this. Don't recommend doing it for too long, but it's not gonna like stab you. If you're putting it through the thing and you slip, you can put some force behind it and you can puncture skin. But for the most part, these are pretty easy to work with, pretty safe. Not gonna hurt yourself too badly, and worth spending the money on John James. Thread. This is Mandala Crafts off of Amazon. I think it's like 300 yards for $10. Comes in a whole bunch of different colors. This is the 0.8 millimeter. I believe they also have 1 millimeter and 1.2 millimeter. It's up to choice. Here's a yellow, here's a blue. I've got black and red and white and purple sitting around the house. Lots of different colors. You're on your own there. So that covers the must-haves. So next we'll talk about the nice-to-have. So we're going to take this piece of leather right here. This is a thick piece of edge tan. We'll get to our first tool. This is a beveler. So what that's going to do is, you see this is a flat cut on this side. So we'll just run the beveler right down it and round that out. We can do it on the back side too. Some leather it's harder to do this on if you've got like a squishy grain side, back side of the leather, but not too terrible. So we're going to bevel this out as best we can, and we get a nice rounded edge on it now, if that's visible on camera. Not quite so square anymore. Which brings us to our next nice to have, is this burnisher. Now, burnishing, it's not something I always do. It will take, I sometimes like these raw edges. I do, as I mentioned in the first one, I like the grunge aesthetic. I like that raw, rugged look. But a lot of people like burnished. So you take this guy right here, and it's got multiple little grooves in it to round things out. Now, you can burnish with pretty much any piece of wood. You can do it with this handle if you want to. You can do it with any hammer handle, just about anything. You can do it with the handle on the beveler. But what this does is it gives you a more nice round bevel in there. So you can burnish with beeswax. You can do it with this stuff called toconol, which is kind of the gold standard for burnishing and sealing. Or you can literally do it with just water. You just put some water on there, rub it in, and go. So I'll take and I'll do half of this with beeswax. I'm just going to rub it on there, and then we're going to take our tool and we're just trying to generate friction. So rub it a little bit, and it's now very smooth to the touch. This is still kind of rough. You can hear it scratchy. This is very, very slick. I'll put some tokonole on here and I'll do the other side just to kind of demonstrate that. Doesn't take much. A little dab will do you. So rub it on there. Smooth it out. And then we're just generating friction, generating heat. Wipe it down again, and that is smooth as can be. Now, if you keep going at this, you can make like a glass-like surface on there. You can see the difference. I know this is a harsh light, but you can see the difference where I did it with the beeswax and the tokonole. Again, water will do. Don't have to spend too much money on it. You just want some way to kind of seal that edge and smooth it out. So that pretty much covers it for the tools that you're going to need. Big ones are knives. Knives. Way to punch holes. Some mat that you can punch holes into. Do not recommend using this directly on one of these self-healing mats. You will take giant holes out of it. Get yourself something that's a little harder. Hard rubber mat or one of these NSF cutting boards. Depending on whether or not you're doing it, you're going to need rivet setters for your rivets. And then needles and thread. And that'll get you started. So that should cover it for part 3. That should cover it for the tools that you need. And in the next video, we're going to talk about how to actually stitch things, because that takes a little more time than showing you how a rivet works. So if you enjoyed this, like and comment. Let me know down in the comments. I'm going to put more links in the descriptions to some of these tools, and I'm going to put a link down there to our affiliate for Glowforge. If you're looking to invest in a Glowforge, I would really appreciate it if you click that link. I get a little commission off of it, and you get up to $500 off. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.